What's up, guys? And you are watching the Underdog Playoff Best Ball show. I have got another team that I think is undervalued and that I've been targeting in these playoff best ball drafts, and I'll get into it right after this. There is a ton of value in current Underdog Playoff Best Ball ADP. Elite offenses like the Bills are easy to stack. Take advantage of uncertainty and start drafting now. Use the promo code SEEK for up to $100 match on your first deposit. And subscribe to Heat Seeker Sports on YouTube for Underdog strategy and drafting shows. Hey, what's up, guys? Simon Edwards at Pumacom here with Heat Seeker Sports. You're watching the Underdog Playoff Best Ball drafting show. And I do have a team that I am looking at now that I've been trying to get exposure to that I think is pretty fairly valued and it's easy to stack right now. And I ran through my ESPN playoff generator and found a path for them. I think that is pretty good for them to get to the Super Bowl. And I actually ran through all the matchups on the projections that I'm thinking for the playoffs and beyond, just matching them up on strength of DraftKings points scored against and looking at the teams that they'll face. And one of their receivers came in as the guy that's going to have the best matchups throughout the playoffs if they make it to the playoffs with my projections. And I think he's going to be a steal trying to stack this team because I think they have a really good shot based on matchups of getting to the Super Bowl if they make it to the playoffs. And it looks likely that they will make it to the playoffs. And I'll get into that. It's not the Buffalo Bills this time, but I'll get into that first. Make sure to hit the like button on this YouTube video. I'm looking for about 20 likes, and then I'll put out a shorter video. I'll start putting out some of these short videos with my favorite ADP values and stuff in these playoff best ball drafts. Whole different strategy when you're doing playoff best ball than when you do normal drafts. And it is super fun to do, and it keeps you alive throughout if your teams survive, it keeps you with a rooting interest throughout the playoffs. Make sure to hit the promo code SEEK. You're going to want to enter the promo code SEEK. That's SEEK. Just think Heat Seekers. And I have that on the bottom of the screen where you can see what the promo code is. In the bottom, be right here for you guys. It is the promo code SEEK, and Underdog is going to match you up to $100 on your first deposit if you use that promo code. I'm also going to put the link in the description of this video so you can just directly click and make your deposit on Underdog. If you make a deposit of $100, you get that up to $100 match. And what that does, there's plenty of these playoff best ball contests. There's $5, there's $3, there's $25. You put $100 in and you get $100 for free. That gives you $200 to play with. That's 8 entries into the gauntlet. That is the whole 40 entries into the $5 contest. Trying to do math on the fly. And it gives you a whole buttload of entries into that $3 contest too. And maybe you want to do the big one. They got like a 252. So that's an option. So we're going to take a look at all these values here for playoff best ball. I am in a draft right now, just waiting for it to fill. So let me get to that real quick. Let's see. Takes me a minute to figure out how to navigate on this thing. All right. So let me share my screen with you guys. And I am waiting for 2 more people to start, so that gives you an idea of what the situation is. Meanwhile, let's go over some of these ADP values. Christian McCaffrey, I think, is a logical #1 pick. I think San Francisco is the most likely team to make it to the Super Bowl on the NFC side. And I do like trying to get as much exposure to them as possible. The problem is with the strategy with playoff best ball, this starts week 1 of the playoffs. And week 1 of the playoffs, the #1 seed is likely to have a first round bye. And that's likely to be San Francisco. So if you draft Christian McCaffrey at the #1 spot, you're drafting him with the knowledge that he is likely going to not be available week 1 for you. So you need to draft late value in order to make up for Christian McCaffrey, who's not going to be in your lineup week 1. And you can do that by looking at some of these other running backs that you can draft a little bit later. Maybe like James Cook, if you think Buffalo's going to make the playoffs. You got the Dolphins running backs who I like. And you got guys like, if you scroll down a little bit more, Jahmyr Gibbs. A lot of value on Jahmyr Gibbs right now. His ADP is about 29. Kyron Williams, another guy that I like. I think that the Rams are going to do well and potentially upset the Eagles in round 1. Because if my projections are right, then I have them facing the Eagles in round 1 of the playoffs. And I think that that's a really good matchup for Los Angeles. And I think Los Angeles could pull an upset if they make it to the playoffs and have that face-off. Then you got like guys like ETN, David Montgomery. I got to get Keaton Mitchell out of my player pool. But guys like that. So you have plenty of options if you draft Christian McCaffrey at the number 1 overall spot to find some value for upside guys later on in the draft. And the guys that I'm focused on right now is Miami. And Miami is the team that when I plug them into my playoff projections and I get to compare them in matchups on my spreadsheet to the typical spreadsheet that I use when I'm doing the analysis on my stack shows and stuff like that, where I come out with these picks that hit a lot of the time. I'm seeing Tyreek Hill as probably the wide receiver with the best slew of matchups throughout the playoffs if they make it far. And you can't ask for a better guy than Tyreek Hill to be having good matchups in the playoffs because he gets a ton of volume. He's about to set the single season record for receiving yards. He missed a game, which is too bad. I don't know how much that throws him off, but they're going to be looking to get him yards the next few weeks in DFS. So make sure you're rostering Tyreek Hill. But as far as playoff best ball, Tyreek Hill, you can't ask for a better player for playoff best ball than Tyreek Hill, I don't think, because I think Miami can surprise. The narrative on Miami throughout the season has been that they cannot beat good teams, and the playoffs is going to be the perfect opportunity for them to start beating good teams. And, like the narratives like that are great because it scares people off of teams like the Dolphins, who are just like really good teams and really high-powered offenses, and they can go really far in these playoffs if they're underestimated. And I think they're just in a really good spot. You can see, if you scroll down, you can see where other guys' ADPs are. ADP of Waddle is 23.8. That's a good value on him, I think. Mostert and A-Chain, you got 22.9 for A-Chain. You got 24.2 for Mostert. There's been a few times where I've been able to stack the entire Dolphins team. Just like there's been a few times where I've been able to stack the entire Eagles team too. So if you think that the Eagles are going to go far in the playoffs, and they have a really good shot of being the NFC team that advances. Like they just got to beat San Francisco, obviously. Okay, so here I am with the first overall pick. That's going to kind of throw me off of my strategy. I may go Tyreek Hill regardless, just to give you guys an idea of stacking the Dolphins, but I may just go with McCaffrey because I don't have a lot of McCaffrey exposure, and I do think that San Francisco is going to make it to the Super Bowl. So maybe I can demonstrate, what we can do if we draft McCaffrey and make up for that with some value later on in the draft. So I'm going to use that as my strategy. I'm going to go with McCaffrey with the first overall pick and kind of build from there. Now, the option of drafting Tyreek, let's see. This is a really hard decision for me, like based on how I've been drafting lately and how I think it might play out if if we get the Dolphins in that good matchup in week 1 of the playoffs, because they're going to be more popular as these things go on. But Christian McCaffrey, I need some exposure to him. So I'm going to go with McCaffrey and then just completely shift, like what I was planning on doing on this show, because I never get the number 1 seed. So got McCaffrey. We'll see how long it takes for Tyreek Hill to get taken. I'm going to still stack the Dolphins even without Tyreek, just because I do think that the Dolphins are going to get far. My projections for the playoffs, I have the Dolphins versus the 49ers currently, and that's based on current matchups. This could change like next week. When we find more team, there's so much volatility in the playoffs this year that like any win can just completely like shift the entire matchups of that first round of playoffs. But right now, with my projections, I really like the Dolphins versus the 49ers. So when it gets back to me in 6 picks, there goes Tyreek. You can see Tyreek's actually going pretty late. Tyreek went at pick 5 in this. That would be a dream for me to be in like, pick 5 there and to get Tyreek. So he's really, really good value there. So now we're looking at the Jalen Hurts, Brock Purdy, Patrick Mahomes for quarterbacks. Those are the top quarterbacks that are on my projections. These drafting order is like, these are my rankings that I'm going off of. I'm not going off of the ADP rankings. I've got the teams that I like based on the matchups that I've seen with my projections, and I'm going to kind of stick with those. Okay, so it's coming back to me. I do like the value on Miami, but I'm seeing that Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen are both potentially making it back to me. So I can easily pivot here and go with Diggs and go with Allen and get that stack, because I do think that the Bills are going to make the playoffs. And I think the Bills will be dangerous in the playoffs if they make it. That's the little teaser that I've been given at the top of my videos talking about the Bills being a value. Well, right there, you would never be able to get a Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs stack in previous years. It was very difficult to do. But now I can get Christian McCaffrey, and then I can stack Allen and Diggs in rounds 2 and 3. I think that leaves me with a very good spot right now. So I'm going to go to the draft here so you guys can see exactly how this is going down. You can see with my team, Christian McCaffrey, Stephon Diggs, and Josh Allen. So I got my quarterback taken care of. I got my wide receiver taken care of. I'm going to try to get James Cook with my next draft. I think he's taken already. Somebody already grabbed him. So I'm going to want to find a guy. I'll probably look a little bit later for a running back, just because I need to find a good value on one to make up for Christian McCaffrey. So when it comes back to me, I think I'm going to get Gabe Davis to kind of add to my stack there. Another option would be I could just say, draft Jalen Waddle and Devin Achane if they're still there. We've got Mostert, Achane, and Waddle still available, which is surprising to me. We're coming up on pick 22. So we'll see how this ends up landing to me. I don't see any more 49ers. So Christian McCaffrey, I can't really stack 49ers. So I want to have Christian McCaffrey. And okay, so I'm shifting strategy here. I want to get Jalen Waddle, and I want to get, I'm going to go with Raheem Mostert, I think. I like Achane's upside. Man, it's a tough one between Achane and Mostert. You know what? I'm going to grab Achane because I have a ton of Mostert as it is right now. I don't have a lot of Achane because he's hard to kind of get along with Mostert. So I got Achane in my round 1, hoping for a big week from him to make up for that Christian McCaffrey spot that I'm losing. So Allen, Diggs, and then I got Achane and Waddle. So I'm going to want to grab Tua on my next round because I either want the Dolphins or the Bills to make it to the Super Bowl to face off against the 49ers. And that is the strategy that I have now. I'm going to highlight Raheem Mostert and Tua Tagovailoa. I'm putting them in my queue. Just lost Mostert. Mostert just got drafted. So I got Tua and I got Gabe Davis as my next guys up. Hopefully they'll drop to me. In playoff best ball, it's all about kind of drafting these teams. Stacks. You want to get stacks in these because you want to advance as many players as you can to the Super Bowl, but you can't sacrifice. There goes Tua. You can't sacrifice value while you're doing this. You have to be very conscious of being realistic about the players you're drafting. If you draft all Chiefs, for example, you're going to have to realize that the Chiefs are not going to put up a lot of points on a week-to-week basis. So you're going to have to draft as many high upside guys as you can throughout the draft as well to kind of carry those Chiefs through, because it's likely that Patrick Mahomes is going to be the only consistent guy putting up points. All right, so here I am. I'm going to grab Gabe Davis and Dalton Kincaid and get my Bill stack in full force. I basically got every Bill except for James Cook. James Cook is one of my favorite Bills to draft, especially you're getting a decent value on him. I did not get my value on him in this one, though, because he got taken at pick 14, right in that third round. I've been getting him in the fourth round and stuff like that, but not this time. So my team, we're looking at Christian McCaffrey, Stephon Diggs, Josh Allen, Jalen Waddle, Devin Achane, Gabe Davis, and Dalton Kincaid. So we have basically a big bet on Buffalo making it to the Super Bowl, hopefully against San Francisco. But I'm going to have to probably take a look here and draft maybe Puka Nacua. I do think that Los Angeles is going to do well in the playoffs as well. You can get Kupp and you can get Nacua at great values. You can see Nakua's ADP is 58. So I like that value on Nacua. Let me get out of this draft board so I can show you that. Puka Nacua is a 55. It's weird because the ADPs are different in my phone than they are on the draft board here on my desktop. But I'm going to draft Puka Nacua here because I do think that they are going to do well with the Rams. And my next pick, I'm going to draft a, I'm going to draft maybe, Rashad White. I'm going to draft Rashad White, I think, because I don't really like any of the value on these wide receivers. So Rashad White is my next guy. And as you can see, my team, Allen, McCaffrey, Achane, and White, Diggs, Waddle, Gabe Davis, Kincaid, and Nacua. I didn't like any of the wide receiver tight end values there, which is why I went with a third running back. Now, normally with Christian McCaffrey, I don't want more than one running back, but this helps me shore up a running back score for that week one. I really want McCaffrey to advance to week 2, and it's hard to do that when you're getting a first round bye from him. So you want to go a little bit counterintuitive sometimes, and I wasn't like completely comfortable with Achane over Mostert, but I need the exposure, so I drafted him. And Rashad White helps me to feel more comfortable with Achane because Rashad White has been on fire lately, and if they make it to round 1 of the playoffs, let's see, I have them projected to face off against Tampa Bay versus Dallas. We've seen Dallas be susceptible to the run game, especially with James Cook recently. So if Tampa Bay faces Dallas in round 1, then I do think that Rashad White could potentially have a decent matchup there. So I like his upside, and I like what he's been doing lately. And we're coming up on the, let's see, we're coming up on my last pick. So I think I want to get maybe grab I'm looking at quarterbacks here. I don't really see anyone that I like. I like Stroud for upside, so maybe I'll grab him, like just to give me another upside guy. But if you look at wide receiver, tight end, that is the position that I would normally be drafting. You have to scroll pretty far to see if there's any good values in there. We've got Khalil Shakir. I could grab him to shore up my position there. But I think what I'm going to do is draft. Yeah, I might grab Shakir. I'm going to grab Shakir there. That way I completely have, my my bill stack going on. I've got, let's see. Let me get back to that team. Let's see. All right, you can see I have 8 entries into the gauntlet. This is my latest one, the one that we just did. Got Josh Allen, Christian McCaffrey, Devin Achane, and Rashad White. I walked you through my thought process there. I hopefully will see Miami advance to the second round, as well as Buffalo. And that way I have my team mainly intact. I don't think that Tampa Bay will necessarily advance to the second round, but I do have Rashad White for that first round value at running back, where I think he can put up a decent amount of points. And then for my receivers, I got Stephon Diggs, Jalen Waddle, and Gabe Davis. Those are my main 3. Gabe Davis is very hit or miss, and so is Dalton Kincaid. So I drafted Puka Nacua to give me a little bit more consistency in that first round. So hopefully the Rams will advance to round 2 as well. That's a long shot, but it's possible. Like, I think they'll face the Eagles in my projected matchups for round 1, and I'll share that with you right now too. While we're doing this, for those of you who have been watching my previous show, you saw me talking about this ESPN playoff machine. And the playoff machine is a cool tool. You can find it at espn.com/NFL/playoffs/machine. And you can find it there, and you can go through the motions of all your projected winners for the remaining weeks of the season, and it pumps out who they would be facing in round 1 of the playoffs. And as you can see, I got my round 1 right here. I'm constantly tinkering with this thing to find out the edges and potential upsets and whatnot that can occur in these drafts and are in these playoff contenders. And there's a ton of teams that are on the bubble. I've never seen this many teams on the bubble, especially with under these conditions where I'm drafting for playoff best ball. It's always been really easy to project who's going to get into round 1 of the playoffs. But this year, there's so much volatility with these teams. You got so many teams with similar records, especially in the AFC, all these 11-6 teams, 10-7 teams, there's just so many of them that, like, any loss by one of these teams can throw off your entire projections. So I'm constantly tinkering with it. Don't go too heavy right now, like with your drafting. Save it for when we have a little bit more certainty. I only have 8 teams drafted right now. I'm probably going to be doing it very sparsely, and the drafts that I do are going to be probably recorded like this, like so I can get my playoff best ball shows up leading into week 18. Week 18, I'll go a lot heavier, but right now I'm just kind of like just playing around a little bit. So Before I get into my analysis here, make sure to sign up for an Underdog account so that you can play these playoff best ball drafts, and enter the promo code SEEK. That's SEEK. I got it on the bottom corner of my screen, and make a deposit, and they will match you up to $100. So if you put $100 in there, they're going to match you on $100. That gives you 8 entries into the gauntlet. It gives you 40 entries into the mitten. Like, there's all sorts of contests that Underdog runs for playoff best ball, and they're all fun. And another good thing about playoff best ball, it's not like regular best ball. With playoff best ball, you're getting payouts each round as your teams advance. So if you advance 8 teams into round 2, they'll give you payouts for those 8 teams for their round 1 payoffs. So it's very very cool in that you don't have your bankroll tied up throughout the entire season. It's only tied up weekly as your teams advance. So that's very good feature of playoff best ball. And the way it goes is you're drafting for the playoffs. You're drafting for the wild card round through the Super Bowl. So the teams you're drafting now, you're drafting for them to make it through the wild card round onto the Super Bowl. And each week is an advancement in playoff best ball. Like, each week of the playoffs, you advance teams. So you want to make sure that you're advancing through week 1. And you do that with some of the strategy that I discussed, with making sure that if you're drafting week 1 buys, that you are making up for it with value later on. You don't want to end up with a bunch of players on a buy in week 1, because then you can shoot yourself in the foot. The Ravens, projected number 1 seed here, you can get much better value on them than you can on the 49ers. So if you draft players early rounds that are going to be playing week 1, then you can draft a stack of the Baltimore Ravens. They won't put up points in week 1, but you will have your earlier round draft picks that are, potentially projected to score a bunch of points. So you can carry this number 1 seed into round 2, which is good because, you have guaranteed players in round 2 if you can advance, those teams into past round 1. It's not like a lot of teams you'll draft, and then if you draft multiple teams, one of your teams gets eliminated, then you have a bunch of dead spots if you make it to round 2. So the lineup that I just drafted, for instance, if Miami goes out in round 1, then I lose A-Chain and Waddle for round 2. If Miami and Los Angeles get eliminated, then I lose Puka Nacua as well, and I'm just stuck with my my Bills stack, and maybe Rachaad White, who's likely to get eliminated in round 1 as well. So then I'd be going into round 2 with my Bills stack, hoping that advances to the next round, and so on. So that's a lot of strategy involved with this. It's a very fun game to play. Let's go over this projections. I have the Rams beating the Saints. I have the Vikings beating the Lions. This could easily go to the Lions. If this goes to the Lions, it doesn't really change anything unless something happens in week 17 or 18. I still got Minnesota in there. So let's go with the Lions because I think that they have a really good chance of winning. We got the Bengals versus the Steelers. Normally, I'd take the Steelers at home, but they got Kyle Rudolph starting this week, and the Bengals have looked pretty good with Jake Browning. So I think the Bengals are going to beat the Steelers. If the Steelers did win, doesn't change anything based on my future projections. So leave it on the Bengals. Jaguars versus Bucks. I had the Jaguars winning. If they lose, then they are eliminated from playoff contention. But right now, I have them winning against the Bucks. So they really need this this game. And now it's not adjusting back to what I had. So we got the Bills beating the Chargers. We have the Chargers just lost their head coach. They finally fired the guy. We have the Bears beating the Cardinals. That's really doesn't affect us on the playoffs. I have Houston winning over the Browns. If the Browns won that game, well, there goes the Jags back into that third seed. If the Texans win that game, yeah, it's a little messed up right now. Let me refresh this and start it from scratch. Well, it's not working now. So let me try to open it in another page here. Well, now, of course, it's not working. So let's see. Let's just go through the motions with it. Okay, I'm going to share my screen again here. Nice job, ESPN. Let's go with the Rams. I think the Rams will win. I think the Lions will beat the Vikings. Let's see. Let's go with the Jags over the Bucks again. I had the Bengals over the Steelers. Buffalo beating the Chargers. I got the Bears beating the Cardinals. I like Miami versus Dallas at home. I like the Texans, even with Case Keenum starting against the Browns. I think the Texans are on kind of a mission, and they're playing at home. Jets Washington is inconsequential, but I'll go with the Jets at home. We got Patriots versus Broncos. I think the Broncos take that game. I think that Kansas City beats the Raiders. I think that this game is going to be very important for Seattle. I think that the Titans could win this at home. We got Will Levis, who just had an high ankle sprain. So it's likely that that we'll get Tannehill back in at quarterback. And, maybe that veteran presence, he's had a few weeks off. Maybe he can pull it off at home. We got the Colts versus the Falcons. I think Colts win that. I'm hoping that the Falcons win because I really want to see Houston make it to the playoffs. I want to see. I think the Eagles beat the Giants. I think that's a pretty easy one. I think the 49ers are going to be a wake-up call for the Ravens because I think the Ravens are a little bit overrated right now. And I think the 49ers are just such a good team. I got the Packers over the Panthers. Arthur Smith is not the coach of the Packers, so they actually play their good players. I think the Browns Jets will be an interesting game. It's going to be Flacco revenge game, but I think the Jets could take this game. And I've been pretty good with my Jets call this season, but I think the Jets could take this game. And it's possible that Aaron Rodgers might even be the quarterback of that game. So let's go with the Jets. And this is where it's a pain in the ass because I really wish that this thing wasn't crapping out on me right now because I really want to see, what that would do for these playoff projections. I think that the Rams beat the Giants. I think the Eagles beat the Cardinals. I think Dallas can beat the Lions. I think this will be an interesting one because I do think that Miami is the better team here, but they're playing in Baltimore, and Miami, they're going to need to step up eventually. So let's have them stepping up against Baltimore. I like the Bucks here. I like the Bills here at home against the Patriots. I like the 49ers. That's an easy one. I think the Chicago is an easy one there. I don't like the Falcons at all. I like Seattle at home versus Pittsburgh. I like the Colts beating the Raiders. I hope that the Raiders win this one, though. But I think the Colts are going to take it. I take the Chiefs in this one at home. I'll take the Jaguars in this one. That's an easy one. I think the Broncos could easily beat the Chargers. It's a divisional game, so it seems kind of trappy, but they are playing at home. I like the Texans versus the Titans at home. Divisional rounds, I'll usually lean towards the home team in those games, unless there's some sort of weird like injuries or stuff like that. But even then, like the home teams have a really good shot of winning. I like this is another spot. I like the Vikings at home versus the Packers, but the Packers have been playing well, but the Packers aren't that great of a team, so I'll take the Vikings there. I like Seattle here, Denver here versus versus the Raiders. I just think that Denver is a complete team, and I think that Sean Payton can overcome, playing on the road versus a division opponent. I like the Ravens here. I think that's an easy one. This is where, the Bills is do or die. The Bills need to win this game against the Dolphins in order to make it to the playoffs, unless they get a bunch of help. But I think it's pretty cut and dry that the Bills need to win out the season to make the playoffs. The Bucks I like against the Panthers. I like this one doesn't matter, but I'll take the Jets, especially if Rodgers is playing. This one I like the Bengals at home versus the Browns. This one I like Saints at home versus the Falcons. I'll take the Detroit at home in this matchup. I like the Eagles because the Giants just suck. I like in this game, I'll take Green Bay. I'll take the 49ers over the Rams because they just own the Rams. And this one, another one, Texans versus Colts playing in Indy. So Colts home game, going to have to be consistent there. I'll go with the Colts. And with this one, Jags, I think, are just a superior team, and they're playing for their playoff lives. Meanwhile, Titans are going to be playing that week for playing the spoiler. And if Will Levis is playing that week, which I doubt, he's got a high ankle sprain, he's probably going to miss a few weeks. But if he plays, then this will be a good week for Will Levis to DeAndre Hopkins stacks, because he's spot I've been looking for with Will Levis, and I thought I had it last week, was him playing at home. I reached a little bit last week because he had a difficult matchup, but I had him. I've been looking for a spot for him playing at home, and it looked really good. In that first drive, he ended up driving down the field and then getting a rushing touchdown, scoring 10 DraftKings points in the first drive. And then he scored 5 DraftKings points for the whole rest of the game. But then, he ended up injuring his ankle. So I think this game, though, Jacksonville's defense is so bad. Like, I like Will Levis in this matchup if he plays against Jacksonville, and I like DeAndre Hopkins as a stacking partner. If they're even playing, I don't know if they'll be if Levis will be active. This game, I like the Chiefs unless you're resting players. And this game, I like Dallas to beat Washington, although Washington is a tough opponent and they're playing at home. So don't be surprised if you see an upset with this game. Now, of course, they did not register any of that, like with pumping out my playoff projections, but that gives you an idea of how I'm leaning with these things. Let me share my I'll share my spreadsheet with you instead, because I had those matchups kind of laid out. Let's see. Just got to set it up here. All right. So as far as how I had the playoffs laid out in my spreadsheet, I'll share that with you guys real quick. Just give me a second. Kind of threw a monkey wrench into my plans with the CSPN thing. All right, so let me present to you guys my new screen here. So you can see that I had Baltimore as my first round bye. I had Kansas City versus Houston. I had Jacksonville, Miami, and I had Buffalo, Indy. that was how my projections, not the ones that I just showed you, but the ones I had earlier. I just like tweaked on that one that I showed you. NFC, I had San Francisco advancing. Then I had Philly versus the Rams. This is where I like the Rams in that matchup. I had Philly advancing, but I do think that the Rams can upset Philly in that first round of the playoffs if that matchup happens. Detroit versus Green Bay, I have. That's division rivals. They'll be playing in Detroit. So I like Detroit to advance. Then I got Tampa Bay versus Dallas. So in that game, I have Dallas winning, but I could see Tampa Bay upsetting Dallas. Dallas chokes in the playoffs. So I'm not very high on Dallas. I'm not going to have a lot of exposure to Dallas just because of like their consistency on just choking in the playoffs. So I got round 2. I got Baltimore versus Miami. I got Kansas City versus Buffalo. I got San Francisco versus Dallas. I got Detroit versus Philly. I have Miami beating Baltimore, and I have Buffalo beating Kansas City. So we'd have Miami versus Buffalo. I have Dallas beating San Francisco, or I have San Francisco beating Dallas. I have Philly beating Detroit, San Francisco versus Philly, and then I have Buffalo and San Francisco advancing to the Super Bowl. I do think that Miami has a really good shot of advancing to the Super Bowl, so don't sleep on Miami, and they are a value right now. So Miami and Buffalo, two teams that I like advancing to the Super Bowl if they make the playoffs, are both teams that are good values on Underdog right now. I have this is last year's Super Bowl. I have or last year's projection, or 2 years ago. Buffalo versus San Francisco. I think it doesn't really matter who wins, honestly, but for the sake of just guessing, I think that San Francisco. I think it's San Francisco's year to take the Super Bowl this year. But this is why San Francisco is being drafted so highly, because everybody thinks that they're going to win this year. But they're just too good of a team. They should have made it last year, or at least had a chance to make it. Brock Purdy got hurt in the conference championship, helped Philly advance. And as an Eagles fan, like, I will gladly take the Eagles advancing to the Super Bowl. But I do think that last year San Francisco, got kind of boned with an injury. So, it sucked to be them. But this year, I think they make up for it. I think they're the best team in the NFL right now. And I think that they can definitely take the Super Bowl this year. So that's it for this show. I'll be on with another show. Hopefully I can get that playoff generator working again. But I'll leave the link for that in the description down below, as well as a direct link that you can click on to get that Underdog match on the first deposit. If you make a first deposit on Underdog, open an account, make your first deposit, they will match you up to $100 if you use the promo code SEEK. And you're going to want to do that because these are super fun. Subscribe to the YouTube page. I have 437 subscribers right now. My goal is to hit 300 by the end of the football season. So I'm getting very close. I've bumped up about 30 in the past week or so. So definitely appreciate you guys hitting that subscribe button. Do me a favor, hit it if you have not. Get me to 300. That's my goal for the end of the season. And also hit like on the video. You hit like, it helps my videos get viewed in the algorithm. Helps YouTube to push that content so I get those views up. And it helps me just in general overall with trying to grow this thing and create more videos. So definitely appreciate you guys viewing. And I will be back. Probably my next video will be a showdown video for Thursday night's matchup. So thanks, guys. Subscribe, like, and sign up for Underdog. I will see you soon.